You ruined my life, Dad. You've been keeping her secret for 30 years, and I'm taking this house to pay for what you did. My 32-year-old daughter, Chloe, slammed her fist onto my dining room table, her face red with tears and rage. I was 64 years old. I stood in my own hallway, gripping the edge of the doorway as my hands shook violently. "Chloe, please," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You don't understand what happened in 1994. Your mother—" "Don't you dare speak her name," Chloe screamed, throwing a thick manila folder onto the table. "The court summons is inside. I filed for emergency property ownership. You have 14 days to pack your clothes and leave." She spun on her heel, slammed the front door so hard the glass rattled, and drove off into the pouring rain. If you want to hear more raw, emotional confessions from people who survived their family's deepest betrayals, take just 5 seconds to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep telling these true stories. I stood alone in the dark house, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked down at the carpet near the table. When Chloe slammed her folder down, a tiny silver key had slipped out from the envelope and fallen onto the rug. It was a tubular steel key, stamped with a 3-digit number, 308. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't seen a key like that since 1994, the year my late wife, Laura, died in a sudden, tragic house fire that destroyed our original home. Or, at least, that was the story I had told Chloe her entire life. I picked up the key. It was still cold to the touch. On the brass ring attached to it was a small plastic tag with handwritten blue ink. St. Jude Community Bank, Safety Deposit Box, 308. My phone in my pocket buzzed. It was a text message from a blocked number. "Chloe opened the box this morning, Arthur. She knows about the 1994 fire, but she hasn't found the second document yet. Get to the bank before she goes back." My hands trembled as I stared at the glowing phone screen. Who was texting me? Only 3 people had known about the fire in 1994. Me, my late wife, Laura, and the local fire chief who retired 20 years ago. I grabbed my heavy coat, shoved the silver key into my pocket, and drove my truck through the blinding downpour towards St. Jude Community Bank downtown. At 11:30 a.m., I stood inside the bank's cold, quiet basement vault. The young bank clerk unlocked the outer security mechanism and stepped back, letting me insert the silver key into box 308. The steel lock clicked open with a heavy metallic thud. I'd pulled the long metal box onto the viewing table. My fingers hovered over the lid. I expected to find old photo albums or Laura's jewelry. Instead, the box was nearly empty. Lying at the bottom was a single faded yellow envelope, a vintage leather-bound child's diary, and a commercial DNA testing kit result from a company called Geneline, dated 3 weeks ago. I picked up the DNA report first. Chloe's name was printed at the top as the test subject. My eyes scanned down to line 6. Relationship analysis, Arthur Vance, alleged father, paternal match, 0.00%, non-biological. Maternal match, 0.00%, non-biological. My vision went blurry. A cold sweat broke across my forehead. Chloe wasn't my biological daughter, and she wasn't Laura's biological daughter either. Before I could process the shock, my thumb caught the edge of the faded yellow envelope beneath the DNA report. Inside was a certified hospital birth certificate from June 14, 1992. The mother's name was listed as Sarah Jenkins. The baby's name was listed as Lily Jenkins. Across the top of the certificate, written in heavy red marker, were 3 words: adoption canceled, child removed. Suddenly, a loud shadow fell across the vault doorway. "I wondered how long it would take you to find that, Mr. Vance," a raspy voice spoke from the dark corridor. I spun around, clutching the yellowed birth certificate to my chest. Standing in the vault doorway was an elderly man, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. He wore a faded beige rain trench coat. His right cheek bore a deep, jagged burn scar that stretched down to his collar. It was Thomas Miller, the former county fire chief who had led the investigation into our house fire 32 years ago. "Chief Miller?" I gasped, my voice barely audible. You sent the text message?" Miller stepped into the vault room, locking the heavy door behind him. "I did, Arthur, because your daughter came to my house yesterday asking questions about her mother's death. She thinks you murdered Laura for insurance money." "What?" I shouted, taking a step toward him. "She thinks I killed my wife?" "That's what the documents in her lawyer's file claim," Miller said quietly, resting both hands on his cane. "Chloe found an old police incident report from 1994. It says Laura's life insurance policy paid out $200,000 to you 2 weeks after the fire." "Because Laura died!" I yelled, tears of frustration stinging my eyes. "You lost everything!" Miller looked at me with cold, pitying eyes. "Did you lose everything, Arthur? Or did you pay $200,000 to keep Sarah Jenkins from telling the police that you took her baby?" I sank into the vault chair, my knees giving out entirely. The air in the room felt suffocatingly thick. "I didn't take her," I whispered, burying my face in my hands. "Laura brought the baby home. She told me the adoption was legal." "Laura lied to you, Arthur." Chief Miller reached into his trench coat pocket. He pulled out an old, dusty VHS tape labeled House Fire, 412 Maple Drive, Evidence Tape Number 2. This is the official arson investigation video from the night of October 12, 1994. The tape that never made it into the official county court file. "Why are you showing me this now, Miller?" I asked, my voice shaking uncontrollably. "Why after 32 years?" "Because Sarah Jenkins didn't die in that fire, Arthur," Miller said, setting the tape onto the metal table. "And she moved back into county limits 2 months ago. She's the one who gave Chloe the silver key." My heart stopped. The room seemed to tilt on its axis. "Sarah is alive?" I rasped. "She spent 30 years in a state mental facility in Oregon. She was released last spring. She found Chloe online, sent her the DNA kit, and gave her the key to this safety deposit box. Chloe thinks she's fighting for justice for her real mother. She has no idea what Sarah is actually planning to do to your home." My phone chimed violently in my pocket. It was an urgent notification from my home security app. A motion alert showed a camera view of my backyard. A tall woman in a long black raincoat was standing on my back porch holding a red plastic jerry can. Beside her was my daughter Chloe, holding a crowbar trying to force open the kitchen sliding door. I scrambled to my feet, shoving the birth certificate, the DNA test, and the VHS tape into my coat. "She's at my house right now!" "Arthur, wait!" Chief Miller called, out, grabbing my sleeve. "You don't know the whole truth about 1994. Laura didn't die in that house." I yanked my arm free from his grip. "I don't care about 1994 right now. Chloe is in danger." I ran out of the bank vault, burst through the front lobby doors, and sprinted to my truck in the pouring rain. My truck tires screeched loudly as I turned down my gravel driveway at 50 miles an hour. The rain was falling in heavy sheets. Through the blurred windshield, I saw Chloe's red sedan parked near my garage, its hazard lights flashing rhythmically in the dark. I threw the truck into park, jumped out, and ran around the side of the house toward the back porch. "Chloe!" I screamed against the howling wind. "Chloe, stop! Step away from her!" Chloe was standing on the wet wooden deck, holding the crowbar. The glass sliding door was already cracked. Standing right beside her was the woman in the black raincoat. Her gray hair was soaked, clinging to her hollow cheeks. Her eyes were wide, dark, and filled with an unsettling, glassy intensity. Sarah Jenkins. "Stay back, Dad!" Chloe yelled, her voice trembling with raw, hysterical emotion. "Don't come any closer! Sarah told me everything. You stole me from her when I was 2 years old. You burned your own house down to cover up the kidnapping." "Chloe, listen to me," I pleaded, taking a slow, cautious step up the porch stairs, holding my hands out in the open air. "Look at the woman standing beside you. Look at what she's holding." Chloe looked down at Sarah's right hand. Sarah was holding a heavy red plastic container of gasoline, and her left hand was tucked deep inside her coat. "Sarah?" Chloe whispered, her confidence faltering for the first time. "Sarah, why did you bring gas? You said we were just here to get my mother's original birth records from the floor safe." Sarah didn't look at Chloe. She kept her dark, unblinking eyes fixed entirely on me. "He owes me 30 years, Lily. He took my baby. He took my life. Fire cleaned the mess in 1994, and fire will clean it today." Sarah pulled her left hand from her coat pocket. She wasn't holding a key or a document. She was holding a box of wooden strike-anywhere matches. Chloe gasped, taking an immediate step back toward the porch railing. "Sarah, stop! You said we were going to the police. You said we were filing a civil lawsuit." "The police won't give me back 30 years, baby," Sarah laughed. A wild, tragic sound that sent a chill straight down my spine. "Your father paid off the fire chief in 1994. He bought your life with insurance blood money." "That's a lie," I shouted, taking another step up the stairs. "Chloe, look at me. In 1994, I came home from work and found our house in flames. Laura was inside. I tried to run into the living room, but the beams collapsed." "Then why did you collect the $200,000, Arthur?" Sarah shrieked, striking a wooden match against the side of the box. A small yellow flame flickered against the wind and rain. Tell her where Laura went with that money." I froze. My breath hitched in my throat. I looked at the flickering flame in Sarah's hand, then at Chloe's terrified face. "Laura took the money," I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "Laura took the money because Laura was the one who paid your family to buy Chloe. When the police started asking questions about illegal adoption rings in 1994, Laura panicked. She set the fire herself to fake her own death, and she abandoned both of us." Chloe's jaw dropped. The crowbar slipped from her numb fingers, clattering onto the deck. "What?" "She left us, Chloe." Tears poured down my cheeks, mixing with the cold rain. "I found out 3 days after the fire, when the bank notified me that Laura had cleared out our joint savings account from a teller window in Canada. I kept quiet for 32 years, because if I told the police the truth, they would have taken you away from me and put you in state foster care." Silence fell over the porch, broken only by the heavy thrum of the rain against the tin roof. Chloe stared at me, her eyes wide with total, shattering realization. The narrative she had believed for weeks, that I was a greedy monster who had destroyed her life, crumbled into dust. You stayed to protect me?" Chloe sobbed, her voice breaking. "You were 2 years old, Chloe," I said softly, my voice cracking. "I was your little girl. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care that Laura betrayed me. I just couldn't lose you." Sarah's face twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. "Liars! You're all liars!" She hurled the lidded match onto the deck floorboards. The gasoline soaked into the wood caught instantly. A wall of orange flame erupted across the porch, trapping Chloe against the far wooden railing. "Chloe!" I screamed. Without thinking, I lunged forward, jumping directly through the wall of smoke and fire. The heat seared my face and forearms, but I grabbed Chloe around her waist, pulling her hard toward the side steps. We tumbled together onto the wet grass below as the fire flared up toward the roofline. Behind us, Sarah stood on the burning porch, laughing hysterically as the flames licked at her raincoat. Suddenly, red and blue emergency lights flashed through the trees at the end of my driveway. 2 county sheriff cruisers and a fire engine pulled onto the lawn, their sirens wailing loudly through the storm. Chief Miller jumped out of the lead cruiser, holding a fire extinguisher flanked by 3 uniformed deputies. "Get them away from the deck!" Miller roared to his officers. 2 deputies grabbed Chloe and me, pulling us back toward the driveway as Miller and the firefighters rushed the porch with foam suppressants. 2 hours later, the rain had stopped. I sat inside a small interview room at the county sheriff's department, a thick white bandage wrapped around my left forearm where the flames had scorched my skin. Chloe sat in the chair right beside me, holding a warm paper cup of coffee in both hands. She hadn't let go of my right hand since we stepped into the police cruiser. The door opened, and Detective Vance walked in, carrying 3 heavy legal folders. He sat down across from us and set a digital recorder on the table. "Sarah Jenkins has been taken into custody," Detective Vance announced calmly. "She's being held under psychiatric evaluation and faces charges of attempted murder, aggravated arson, and felony extortion." Chloe looked down at her coffee cup, her shoulders trembling. What about my mother, Laura?" Detective Vance pulled a fresh document from the top folder and laid it on the table. "The federal liaison ran a database check on the Canadian bank transfer from 1994, the detective said gently. "Laura Vance passed away 12 years ago in Vancouver under an assumed identity. There are no remaining civil or criminal claims regarding the 1994 insurance payout." He turned his gaze toward me. "Mr. Vance," the detective said softly, "Chief Miller provided us with the complete 1994 arson investigation file, including your original sworn statement from 32 years ago. You did not commit arson. You did not steal a child. You raised a daughter under extraordinary, tragic circumstances." The detective stood up, picked up his tape recorder, and closed his folder. "You're both free to go home. The fire on your back porch was contained. Your house is safe." 6 months later, the early autumn sun shone brightly over my quiet 3-acre plot. The wooden back porch had been completely rebuilt with fresh, light pine wood. The sliding glass door was brand new, sparkling in the clear afternoon light. I sat in a comfortable wooden rocking chair, sipping a cup of black coffee, watching the yellow leaves drift down from the large oak tree near the driveway. A car door clicked shut. Chloe walked around the side of a house carrying a cardboard box filled with her old childhood storybooks and framed family photographs. She set the box down on the porch table, walked over to my chair, and leaned down to wrap her arms around my neck. "Dad," she whispered softly into my ear, "I'm so sorry I ever doubted you." I squeezed her hands, feeling a deep, profound sense of peace wash over my heart, a peace I hadn't felt in over 32 years. "You don't ever have to apologize, Chloe," I smiled, looking into her eyes. "You were looking for the truth, and the truth finally set us free." Chloe has spent the last 6 months moving her things back into her old bedroom upstairs. We spent long evenings sitting on this very porch talking about everything, about Laura, about Sarah, and about the quiet sacrifices made in the dark so that she could grow up in safety and love. The legal battles are over, the old secrets have been laid to rest. I am 64 years old now. I lived for 32 years carrying the heavy weight of another person's dark deception, allowing my own daughter to believe I was a monster just to keep her safe. I lost 3 decades to fear and silence. But as I look at my daughter standing beside me in the warm afternoon sun, laughing as she hangs an old family picture on the living room wall, I know one thing for certain. I didn't lose my family. I saved it. And for the very first time in my life, we are finally living in the light.